Does an air intake assist with bottom end responsiveness?
Usually it's the other one.
Possibly, but the way an air intake functions is it allows more air to flow in the engine. And when you say bottom end, I'm assuming you mean low end power band. So say from like 2,000 to 4,000 RPM range. That's typically not where you see the big benefits of an intake. You see the benefits of an intake at higher RPMs, where the higher revolutions per minute require more air to come into the engine. So the difference between, say, 3,000 RPM and 6,000 RPM is you have twice as many combustion cycles at 6,000 RPM. So that means the intake has to feed twice as much air into the engine to make the same amount of torque as it does at 3,000. So intakes and free-flowing exhausts and things like that almost always benefit the high end of the power. The higher you rev, the more you need that.
Yeah. And despite the myriad of marketing materials you'll find on the internet that just show this big step in power everywhere with an intake, it's all about how much flow and how efficiently it can flow. You're not going to get the same improvement at, like Joe said, 2,000 RPM as you will at 4 or 7, just because you've got volumes, multiple volumes of that same air coming in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good analogy for that, but
you go to the straw analogy. You can
that's what I was gonna say.
You can breathe through a certain size straw. Normally just sitting on the couch or something, but then you try and run and you're trying to breathe through that same straw.
So that's a good example. Let's say you're breathing through a straw that when you sit on a couch you can breathe fine, but when you sprint you cannot breathe enough through the straw to support your oxygen needs. And so you go with a straw that's twice as big. You go from a 1/4-inch diameter straw to a 1/2-inch diameter straw. And now when you're running, you can breathe enough through the hose. Does that make it easier to breathe when you're sitting on the couch? Probably not. The 1/4-inch straw was enough to breathe through. It wasn't enough for when you were running. And when you run, the difference is your heart's beating faster, your lungs are breathing faster, so you're having more breaths per minute than you do at idle on the couch. So that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So
and even
just because it works for when you're running doesn't mean it makes it easier when you're sitting.
Yeah.
And that's how your engine looks
if you're struggling or you can feel resistance when you're sitting on the couch breathing, then that filter's just too small everywhere. But that's usually not the case on any of these motors.